everybody. Good evening and welcome to another edition of Sunday Night Live with me, Jonny Lipsham, in Edinburgh, in Scotland, where everything is closed. Literally, everything is closed. Even McDonald's is closed. We heard that just about an hour ago. McDonald's had taken the decision to close everything. They had closed their seating areas, and you could still do takeouts and drive-through and that kind of thing, but they are now closed completely. They have shut down takeout and everything. So, McDonald's is, I'm not going to say it's the favorite place my kids like to go, but it is certainly, it's a place they like to go occasionally and enjoy. And, yeah, closed. As is Krispy Kreme Donuts. They're closed as well. And Burger King and all of those. They're all shut. So the whole world is closed, it would appear. This morning, instead of going to the church building that I have attended for the last 15 years, we had church online instead. So it was a live stream, much like this one, except it was church. And it was very cool. And then I thought, I wonder if there are some others that I could watch. And I watched about 2 or 3 others. It was really, really cool. Getting to see how different people do different things around the world was really quite interesting. So I spent some time this morning and this afternoon doing that, which was quite nice to just kind of chill out and enjoy how other churches do things. So one of the churches that I watched was Joe Gilda's church in Nashville. And he was in the worship team playing acoustic guitar and singing some backup vocals. So it was quite nice to see that. And so, yeah, so that was how I spent my Sunday, to be honest. Extremely, by my kind of reckoning, an extremely relaxed day. So, who was first in the door? Let's see. It was Kyle. Kyle Trajusiak says, "Hello, everyone?" ? Hello, everyone? Michael Johnson says, "Howdy." And then Just Bob says, "Hello, everyone." Kyle says, "While waiting for the usual suspects, I was practicing the solo from Black Coffee in Bed by Squeeze." Awesome. That's a challenge. Let's see. Thomas is here as well, all the way over in the Philippines. Hey, Thomas, how you doing? Hope you are okay. And I wonder if the Philippines, are you guys on complete lockdown yet? That's what I would like to know. Let's see. Kyle said, "I didn't see the whole thing, but Produced Like a Pro had a pre-taped 6-hour mixing session yesterday with Warren commenting live." Yeah, I saw that. Or at least I saw some of it. It was really good, actually. He actually didn't say much. Yeah, Warren is one of those guys who kind of says what is necessary. He doesn't just talk. He kind of says what's necessary, what's required, which is something I really quite like. It's one of his qualities that I really like, to be honest. Kyle says, "I went for a walk around the block between shows. Chilly but good fresh air and got the blood pumping." Yes, I ought to have done that, but we had to go and do a hunt for a missing phone charger. So I did that instead. Joy. Let's see. Mike Neighbor is here. He says, "Watching on my phone. It stinks. Too cold out there for walking." Yeah, it's pretty chilly over there, you guys, and it's actually quite mild here in Edinburgh, Scotland right now, but it's going to get cold. We just got told on the weather forecast we could get some snow, which is weird because it's kind of like almost the end of March. Why on earth would be getting snow at the end of March? Other than the weather is just completely fouled up. Just to add to coronavirus. The whole world is going absolutely bonkers. Ken Moss is here. He says, "Had to click on Facebook link, not showing up on YouTube feed." Well, it should be. My channel is always there, to be honest. You just, well, there is no Facebook link. All I do is just post, it's just a picture, and I say, "Hey, come and join my show." And you can just type in what you see on the picture into the URL, and that'll take you to my channel, and then my show should appear on the channel once it goes live. I can actually directly share the show. I should probably do that because I did that for my my kind of unplanned streams this week. So I think that's what I will do going forward. Is when I put my little graphic up there, I'll put a direct link to this show. That's what I will do going forward. But I'm glad you're here, Ken. And you didn't realize that JG was on earlier. Wow. Okay. My neighbor says we have snow forecast. Wow. Good grief. And it is snowing where Just Bob is as well. PA and upstate New York will get some. Wow. That's crazy. Mike Johnson said, I received a notification for the show. Well, I'm glad you did. Alrighty. Bobby Booth is here as well, which is very, very cool. I'm very glad. We can actually start the show now that Bobby's here. So we've got 13 people here. Now, I'm kind of imagining that possibly these shows might slender down a little bit with coronavirus and all of that. So it is entirely possible that some people would just go, you know what, the world is just too weird today. I'm just going to go to bed. And that's fine if that's kind of how you feel and that's how you think it will, you know, if that's what is going to help you get through, then do that. By all means, you know, this is not a compulsory show. You don't have to be here. You know, this is a free show. I don't sell tickets for this. Hey, I could, but I don't. So, let's see. David SJ is here. Excellent. Just Bob says a few miles north of where your sister lives. Awesome. Yeah, she lives kind of on the lake. From Chicago. That's where she stays. It's a nice area. I've been there. It's nice. It's a nice part of the Chicago area, actually. Kind of just out in the suburbs, about maybe 20 minutes, half an hour outside town. Mike Neighbors says, I'm just going to buy a Dell XPS. Okay, yes, you were talking about that to me yesterday. And that's what you're going to do. Cool. Okay, right. We are 10 minutes in and 14 people here. So, we have been working on this song, haven't we? Bobby says, can't miss the 2Js. Well, that's very kind. Thank you. We have been working on this song from scratch, and we have an AABA form at the moment. So what we're going to do is we're going to flesh it out a little bit tonight. Not massively flesh it out, but we are going to inch our way forward. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of sketch out... not necessarily a melody, but certainly a riff that will go through these sections and maybe even form kind of like the bare bones of a backing for what will go on the top. Because the top, for me, always comes last. So kind of like the melody always comes last. And then I go back, once I've got the melody in there, then I go back and I kind of tinker with the rest of the arrangement to make everything kind of, you get some call and response and that kind of thing. But yeah. So that's what we're going to do. Mike says, that's what I think. I got 7 years out of the last one. Well, you know what? That's why I stayed with Scan Computers, was because, you know, I got 5 years out of, nearly 6 years out of my other one on Windows 7. And didn't crash once. Didn't crash any software once. It wasn't just that it didn't crash. You know, the software didn't crash. It was only really towards the last... maybe 6-7 weeks that it started going a bit funky. And yes, it did started rebooting itself. But I didn't lose any USB buses or anything like that. All of that worked fine. It was, I think what was happening was the memory and the RAM were, the memory and the CPU were starting to fail. So it was a good idea. David says, shopping for you got me thinking about upgrade. Dangerous hobby. Yeah, this is the thing with this thing that we do, this music thing that we do, especially if we're not doing it professionally, is that it's expensive. It really is expensive, and you can very, very easily kind of run out of money. Oh, yes, I know. You know, I started with a very, very small, very minimal studio The first studio computer I got only had 4 gigs of RAM, only had a 500 gigabyte hard drive, and there was only the one hard drive on it, and one crappy little 2-channel interface, and I mean it really was crappy 2-channel interface, and the whole thing, and a Behringer B1 mic, and I had an old SM57 and an old SM58 that I have had for like 40 years. And so that was all I had. That's what I started with way back in when did I first get that first computer? That very first computer. Wow, gotta be like 2000. Year 2000. I don't even think it had 4 gigs of RAM. Might have had less than that. I can't really remember, to be honest. But the one before the last one, not the current one, the one before that, the one that I had before this one was an i5 with 8 gigs of RAM, and the one before that had 4 gigs of RAM. That's right. That's the sequence. And then the one before that, I don't recall how much it had, but it didn't have a whole lot. And as I say, a couple of mics and a 2-channel interface. And that was it. That was all I had. And Cubase. Cubase SX3 in 1999, 2000. I think it was SX3, or it might have been SX2 at that point. And then before that, several versions of Cubase, all the way back to 1988, 89, when I had Steinberg Pro 24 on an Atari ST. So, yeah. And it didn't really cost me very much at the time, maybe about £300. And then the first Scan computer, which is the one before this one, cost me £1,100. And then this one cost me $1,250. But it's got the latest i7, 8-core CPU, and 16 gigs of RAM, and 2 SSD drives. So big step up, and I've got a lot more gear. You know, I've got the Series 3 mixer, I've got the Studio 1824, I've got the Faderport 2018, I've got Eris E5s, and I've got the monitor station, and I've got plenty of stuff now compared to where I started. So it is an expensive hobby. If it is a hobby for you, it's expensive, and you can easily run out of money. I've been fortunate in that I've been able to do this as a profession since 1999. And so I've been able to pay for the stuff. Sometimes I've had to put it on credit and then pay it off, but I've been able to pay for all the gear I've had in my studio. Let's see. Thomas says, here's all locked down. Everything is closed except food markets / stalls. I'm not allowed to leave the house. Need a pass to do, and only one per family. Wow, you guys need a pass. That's serious, and that's awesome, actually. That's the way to do it. It sounds draconian, but it is the way to do it. Mike says, for $150 for then the Mac Mini, I'm getting my computer a new 27-inch monitor. Cool. And my wife a new laptop. Awesome. Just Bob says, I think I might purchase the Positive Grid Spark amplifier. It looks incredible. Comes with Studio One. Awesome. That's cool. All right, let's get started because we're like 17 minutes into the show and I've kind of done nothing but kind of waffle a little bit. So let's get into what we're doing in Studio One. Let's go over to there. Hang on, I need to do that first. And let's get over to our song. Here we are in our song. Hooray! Hooray for the song. Let's play a little bit of the song. And I need my mouse on this screen, not the other one. Here we go. All right, so there you go. So we've got our A, B, and A form for this song. Standard 32-bar song form. So what I've put here is I've put in an instance of a Presence XT trumpet and a Presence XT tenor saxophone. Trumpet sounds really, really good, actually, for a fake trumpet. Sounds pretty good. Tenor, yeah, saxophones are really hard, actually. They are really hard to get right, unless you are prepared to spend literally hundreds and hundreds of dollars on very expensive sample packs. It really is very hard to get a decent saxophone sound out of any sample engine. Really. It is just true. Brass instruments are much easier to capture than woodwinds. Clarinets, yeah, they're okay, you can do them. But saxophones are really hard because there are a bajillion different ways to play a saxophone and a bajillion different ways to articulate a different note. Whereas with trumpet, for the most part, you are, there's things like half valving that you do, which that's a special technique that's actually quite hard to capture as well. But, generally speaking, you're just kind of playing straight for the most part, unless asked to specifically do something specialized. But for the most part, you're just tonguing the note, or you're not tonguing the note and you're playing legato style. And those kind of things are easy to capture, and brass is just easy to do, whereas woodwinds, not so easy. Anyway, so we're not going to worry about the quality of the sounds, because ultimately this is a mock-up, and in the real world, were I writing this in the real world and I was going to get people in to work on this, I would actually replace the trumpet and tenor sax with real musicians playing real instruments. I always do that, so this ends up just being a mock-up, to be honest. And these would end up going bye-bye. So what we're going to do with this song is we are going to produce it up to the point where I would then draft in other musicians to replace some of these tracks. So all of these is what I would call scratch tracks. And we're just kind of mapping out the structure of the song. And for me, song structures are always flexible. And I deliberately write them that way. I deliberately write them with lots of space, because if I give lots of space to musicians, then musicians can respond to each other and they can create something in the moment based upon what I've written. And that leads to enhancing the work, as far as I'm concerned. So what we're going to do, we are going to start fiddling about with this trumpet and tenor sax and see if we can get some melodic riff ideas going for both of these sections here. And these are likely just going to be backing parts, and we will add a couple of other instruments to this, maybe a trombone, maybe a baritone sax, and a few other things that we'll chuck in. And one of those will take the lead in the A section, and then we'll have something else take the lead in the B section, with everything else backing up that lead section, the lead melody in the B section. And then we'll go back to the A section with the original melody instruments, but with different backing is probably what we would do. That's how I tend to arrange things. So we're just going to flesh this out with a few riffs and kind of see what happens, really. So let's play this and see what we come up with. So we've got the trumpet. I've taken off all of the reverbs and stuff that are baked in here. I've turned these off because I would like to, when I get to mixing this, I would like to add those in myself rather than just use these ones. So it's going to sound a little bland and a little bit dry, but hey, it is what it is. This is how we work. We record dry and then we mix and make it nice and wet and mushy and everything else. All right, let's see what we can come up with. Something like that. I actually quite like that. So I'm going to knock that out just now, and we'll see what we can do with the tenor sax. We might have the tenor sax harmonize, or maybe play in unison for the A section, and then harmonize for the B section. Something like that. Let's see. But let's get the trumpet in first. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. We don't need to do the other bit because we can split that there, and we can split that there, and we can grab this bit, and I think it's Alt Drag, is it, to copy it across? I think it is. There we go, and it's just like that. It's a little bit loose in places, a little bit untidy, but let's just get the bare bones of this in first before we do anything else. So, what are we going to do with the tenor sax? Are we going to go at unison, or are we going to go in octaves? So what I mean by octaves is like an octave below the trumpet, or are we going to go at unison, which is the same pitch as the trumpet? Might get a little bit squealy on the tenor, but it's not impossible. So what do we think, guys? What do we think? Let's see. Do a sax for the A. I like that idea. And maybe a trumpet for the B. Yeah. Certainly could do that. Lodfoot Gill says, I think it's cool the churches are doing live streams instead of congregations. What a great thing in these isolating times. Yes, absolutely. I totally agree. And it's actually been very, very good to see how quickly churches have moved almost together. To live streaming their services. Not every church is doing it. There are some churches where they're just doing a podcast, like a daily devotional podcast. One of our friends who is a Baptist pastor is doing that. But yeah, there are some who are doing live streaming services, like our church did this morning, and Joe Gilder's church was doing at 10 a.m. Central, which would be your morning. It was my afternoon. So yeah, they totally live stream that. And there are some that are kind of pre-recording their services and then broadcasting them. So, and I've seen a couple of churches do that as well. So yeah, it's a good way to do it, and it's a good way to keep everybody connected together. So that works pretty good, I think. Let's see. Carl says, I play a bit of Second Life. A few places were holding services in the virtual world. Well, that is very cool. I have heard of Second Life. It actually, as far as I'm aware, Second Life, that whole concept made its way into an episode of CSI, if I remember correctly. Let's see. You guys are saying octave below. Vought says a third. Yeah, it could be like maybe the second time that A melody comes round, the tenor sax could harmonize maybe the third below, the sixth below it. Ken says, are you using the mod wheel while recording the trumpet or recording as audio? I'm not actually. The vibrato is in the sample. There's the tenor sax. I can do it on the trumpet. Hang on, let me just let me do it on the trumpet so you can hear that. So the vibrato is baked into the trumpet. and it does struggle to keep up with how fast I play. Although Arturo Sandoval could play faster. And Arturo Sandoval could easily hit that note, and he could probably hit this note as well. In fact, I've heard him do it, so... In fact, I've heard him do this. Listen to how fast that vibrato is, though. And how slow that vibrato is. So, and yeah, you can play chords. Just for fun. Yeah. So there you go. So the vibrato is baked in to the sample. And it was in CSI. Yes, I knew that it was. Yeah, there was a killer who had a character in Second Life, and that's how they caught him, as I remember. Botsy just said, "Dang, thought it was your live trumpet playing." At 11 o'clock at night? No. Even with lockdown, the police would be around here very quickly because they have nothing to do other than catch errant, noisy trumpet players. No, I will not be playing any live instruments in this room. I won't even be singing on this song because, you know, late night and everything else. And I do not want to PISS off my neighbors because that would be very bad. All right, so you guys are saying octave below. Let's go do it. Let's go do that octave below business. So you guys are thinking double up on the tenor sax and octave below. Well, let's do that. Let's do that. And this is going to be like a riff, really. You know, it's not going to be anything major. This is just like a little riff that we're going to have going through kind of the different sections, and then we'll have melodies dotted about everywhere on different instruments. So let's have a see what octaves below sounds like. Okay, I messed up a bit. Good thing that wasn't a take, because I definitely messed up a bit in a few places there. So I've got to remember that this little riff thing is made up of a slight variation. So you got variation A, which basically goes, and then variation B, very subtle. Doesn't do the two short notes. So there's a slight little variation there. So let's try and put this in without messing it up this time. I messed that bit up totally. So let's do that bit again, shall we? The B section, I forgot about the... So let's try that. Gotta get that timing right. Alrighty, I think we have that. So now I can go and grab this. And I can alt drag. Oh, hang on a minute, what's gone wrong there? Let's undo that. I forgot to cut, that's why. So we'll alt drag that over there. And now we should have our complete tenor sax part. Alrighty, I think I got that right that time. So we're going to save. Alright, so we've got our kind of basic riff laid down. And basically the B section is a very, very slight variation on the melody of the A section, which you can do. You can take the kind of basic idea, which is what I've done, and then slightly vary it and transpose it a little bit, which is what I did. So that kind of does that very nicely. Oh, I pressed the wrong button. I didn't mean to do that, but it is what it is. So there we go. Let's go over here. And let's see what you guys have been talking about. Okay. Cal says musicians and DJs can stream live in Second Life and collect tips. Well, I didn't know that. That's very cool. Burglars are trying to collect unemployment. Okay. Try the third and perhaps fifth, please. Okay. Got to get out the Steely Dan. Maybe. Copy down and drop the octave, then humanize. Well, if you can't drop the octave on a tenor sax because you go out of the range of the instrument, so that's not going to work. But we could certainly stick in a baritone sax under there. Bobby Booth says, hey, try the third. Okay, we can certainly try that. Because the beauty about MIDI is you can transpose. Let's see, I'll play keys for SHIT. So always looking for the easy way out. Yes, absolutely. Sax is a bit repetitive. Well, the whole thing's a little bit repetitive because this is basically just a riff at the moment that we've got. Okay? This is how you build out a tune, or at least this is how I build out a tune. The end result isn't nearly as repetitive as it starts out. Okay? So this is kind of the process I go through. When I'm kind of making something, when I'm mucking out tracks for others to play on. This is kind of where it starts. It's building blocks, and you gradually get more and more complex until you end up with something that just sounds ridiculous. So yeah, we can certainly try adding in some harmonies because we've got octaves. Octaves are a little bit plain Jane, but we can certainly do that next for sure. So Let's see. And you're talking about the trumpet track. Well, yeah, they're both the same melody, to be honest. But yes. Yes. And yeah, I could drop the trumpet down an octave, but it'd be very, very low for a real trumpet player to play. Ken Moss says, I feel like this is a dumb question, but what are the waveforms on the trumpet and sax tracks if you're recording with MIDI? There are no waveforms. It's just MIDI. They're samples. To be honest, Ken, that's all it is. Let's go take a look, and I'll show you what I mean. So let's press that button. So if you look over here, this is all of these peaks and things here. This isn't waveform. This is pressure applied to keys, because my keyboard is pressure sensitive, and it records all the pressure data because that is then mapped to whatever articulations and velocities that there are in the samples. But if I was to just take this, as you can see here, these are all just MIDI notes. Okay? Nothing special going on there. So what you guys are saying is that we should drop the trumpet down an octave. Well, then I will prove it to you, but essentially, if we did that, we would end up with everything being an octave below. So let's go and open what I want to do here. I want to select. Oh, come on, range select tool. Come on. Okay, you're not playing games today. I don't know why. What are we doing here? All right, so let's take all of these notes. And let's go to Action. And we'll go to Transpose. We'll go -1, and we'll do OK. And let's have a listen to that. Now, this would work really, really nice if we had a melody, another melody part on the top of that. And so we would want this trumpet to sound not so bright and brash, which, now that we've taken it down an octave, that is true. It doesn't sound nearly so bright. And it's nicely in unison at the lower register with the tenor sax. So yeah, that actually sounds pretty good. And it would sound even better if we then put another thing, like maybe something like an alto sax on top of it to answer these phrases. We can certainly do that. Let's go and grab another instance of presence, and we can go to winds. We can go to alto sax. We want some vibrato on it because everything else has got vibrato. And we'll call this guy alto. And that sounds like this. It's much brighter than the tenor sax. So yeah, we could definitely do that. And again, we probably want to just get rid of the reverb. Oh, actually, I think I forgot to do that with the tenor. Yes, I did. There we go. So now everything's nice and bone dry. So we could have like a little answering phrase in this alto and maybe a trombone, something like that, that answers this phrase, and then does something different in this B section. So yeah, so we can, I mean, the beauty about MIDI is you can grab something and say, okay, this tenor sax part, I want this on the trombone. And so you can move this, you can move these around. And this is what I do when I'm building an arrangement out. Because I do it all in MIDI, I can just move any part, I can give any part to any other instrument. And I do that regularly. I will flip the orchestration sometimes. So sometimes I might have like a pick, you know, if I'm doing something orchestral, I might have a melody in flutes and piccolos. And I go, you know what, maybe that's too bright and too brittle and I want it a little bit more subtle sounding. So maybe I'll give it to, I don't know, a bassoon high register and a cor anglais and a couple of clarinets in the chalumeau register. Now we've got something completely different because instead of being all high and brittle and very, very bright, we're now playing the same notes, but on different instruments that have a different tone color. So this is often the way I will work, is I will map everything out, I will put everything into Studio One, and it really, at this point, doesn't matter who is playing what in terms of the MIDI parts. Because I can rearrange them and I can change them later, so I can decide, hey, like you guys suggested, let's put the trumpet down an octave because maybe we don't want the trumpet to be the lead instrument in maybe the A sections. So maybe in the B section we can put the trumpet back up and have that as kind of a bit more of a featured melody. You know, we can do all of those things, but right now I just want to get information into Studio One, parts into Studio One that I like. And then I can scatter them around and change them up and have different instruments eventually playing different things. That's kind of how I work. So I hope you guys appreciate that there is a process to this before I get to the end. And yes, it does take some time and it will take some time, but at least you guys get to see one other person's way of doing this, that it's not just, you know, sitting down with an acoustic guitar and humming a melody and then, you know, you build your song out of that. This is a different way of working. And, you know, we could have an entire section where we drop everything out to just, let's see, drums, bass, and guitar too. You know, we could have this little scenario going on. This could be our C section with a different melody going on. Might not be a bad idea. I actually quite like that idea. So maybe we'll do that. So maybe we'll grab this A section here. In fact, we'll grab both of those. And maybe we will alt drag those out to here. And maybe we'll take the bass as well and alt drag that out. And what is it, guitar 2? Yeah, guitar 2, because this is our distorted guitar that's doubling the bass. So maybe we grab this guy as well. And this will be our little C section. And then maybe what we do is... Oh, come on, Lipsham. I'm having a terrible time with range selection here. Why is it not range selecting? That's better. And then maybe we duplicate that. So maybe this should be letter C. And we'll just double click. Oh, didn't want to do that. Double click that. Right click that. And we'll call that C. There we go. All right, so that's an idea for the C section. We can do something completely different melodically and orchestrationally there. So, and then of course we can bring our A section back as well, because that's what happens with this particular form, because it's A B A A B A. So we can just bring back section A here. So I can alt drag that as well. Oh, don't want to do that. Oh, what am I doing? I don't want to move. I want to copy it and move it. Oh, dear. Okay. Don't know why this is not working how it normally does for me. But there we go. And that could be the end of the piece. So, there we go. A little bit of fumbling around there to get that to work. But there we go. Let's save that. So, let's go back and let's add this alto sax thing in. And before that, let's just see what you guys think of that. Because you might not like this. Let's see. Yeah, the waveforms are in the actual samples. How about running a major second on a few notes on the tenor? Yes, we can certainly add in some spicy notes. That is for sure. Ken says, that's why I thought you used the mod wheel before. Yeah, the vibrato is actually an articulation built into that particular thing. Raise a fourth. Yeah, maybe. Let's see. Alto bravato. Okay. Cool. Bobby Booth has a question. You got low and high. What are you going to use for mids? We will come to that. We would probably add in some trombone and things like that. Would you show the console? Yes, I will show the console when we're at that point. Right now, we're not really at that point. We're kind of at the point of recording, but yes. Anyone here using Notation? Yes, I have Notion, as you can see down the bottom here. I have Notion version, the latest version 6. There was a maintenance release just recently put out for Notion. Notion is awesome. I used to use Sibelius. I used that for a long time until Avid bought it, and then I didn't like it quite so much. It just, when Avid bought it, they just made it clunky as heck. And some of the menus just ceased to make any sense whatsoever. There's a very good video out on YouTube on the design flaws of Sibelius, and it's very, very good. He's an Irish guy, and it's funny as heck as well. He's very, very funny. But it's actually very, very good as well, because it totally looks at like all the menus and everything, and it just shows just how completely user unfriendly Sibelius is. And so when I discovered Notion in the back end of 2016, I was just like, yeah, okay, this looks far more user friendly. So I went and got it. And because I have Studio One Professional, at the time in 2016, they were bundling Notion with it for, I think, like half price, like $50 or something. So that's what I did. Has one of my lights gone out? Kind of looks like it. Okay, so yeah, alto sax on the top, in the B section maybe, and maybe alto sax on the top for the A sections, and then in the middle with the trumpet on top for B section, I think is what we will go for. I think that's a good option. So let's go and take a look at what we might do with that. I'm not really sure what should go here on the top, but certainly I think maybe this section here, this one here, I think we zoom into this. I think this all ought to be back up the way. I think this ought to be back up the octave. So let's go back to transpose and let's go to 0. We'll OK that. And that did absolutely nothing. Why did that do nothing? That's very strange. What's going on here? Yeah, that should have gone up the octave. Come on. Ah, it's because I pressed the wrong one. That's why. Duh! And so we'll have the alto and maybe a trombone do something different underneath this section here. But maybe, oh, are we missing? We are missing a guitar part at the beginning here. Yes, we are. Why are we missing a guitar part? We shouldn't be. Strange. Fixed. All right, that's that sorted. All right, so what are we going to do with this alto sax part? It should probably play something melodic. Over the top of what everyone else is doing. I just hit upon a nice little harmony for that B section there, quite accidentally. I think that's what I played. Something like that in that B section might be quite nice, I think. And then I'll come up with something for this A section. But I quite like what we've got there. Helps if you play it right. There we go. I think that works quite nicely, and we're getting towards the end of the show. So I think at this point we will stop what we're doing, and we will take a few questions, and then we'll wrap up for the night. So let's get back over to here, and over to here. Whoa, we got some donations. Woohoo! Yay! So, Bob Studios with $10 and Ken with the $10 as well. Thank you very much. And you're both saying, thanks for the extra content. Well, you're very, very, very welcome. And this is all great fun. I love doing this. And I love kind of just chucking, chucking up a composition in front of you guys is fun. Lots of pressure. But yeah. It's entertaining. I like doing this. Let's go back up the chat a little bit because I missed a wee bit. Also, I was putting that in. So we can find where we got to. Time for fifth. Yeah. Ah, yes. I know where we are. Dooley still says, how much for the t-shirt? Throw in the corner symbol stand. Yeah, you know that corner symbol stand, Dooley? I keep that there just for you. And if I was to give it away, it wouldn't be there anymore, and you would miss it. As for the t-shirt, there is only one. This is it. This is the one Jonny Lipsham Studios t-shirt. I may decide to get a whole bunch made and sell them, but only if there is enough interest, because obviously that's something I have to kind of front up the cost for. But if there is sufficient interest and sufficient desire for a Jonny Lipsham Studios t-shirt, then I will get some made and I will sell them to you guys. Can't give them away though. At least not yet. Maybe later in the year. Soprano sax would be better than the trumpet. I quite like the contrast you get between brass and woodwinds. Especially as we are going to add a trombone into this. So the trombone will balance up the trumpet nicely. Bob Studios says the drums are a bit late MIDI-wise. Well, that's because they're not MIDI. They are a real drum loop played by a real drummer. The drummer's name is Matt Chamberlain. He is a terrific session drummer, one of the top session drummers in the world right now. And so yes, it's a real drummer. And that's why it's a little bit late, because it's not quantized. Let's see. Shaping up nicely, says Just Bob. Thank you very much. Dooley still says, love it. Well, that's cool. Yeah, the 7th notes are cool, but a little heavy. Okay. Ken says, maybe leave the A without and have it start at the B and add for the last 2 A sections. Are you talking about the alto, Ken? I think that's what you're maybe doing. And if that's the case, then that's what we'll do. With a harmony and fourths work. It might, actually. Fud Firebird, you're right, because these are minor chords, so we can certainly have a bit more of a modal approach, which I'm kind of doing, because you've got the alto sax, which is, kind of like down here. Wow, that vibrato's fast, isn't it? Whoever the alto player was on when they made this sample still thinks it's 1935. So basically you got the melody doing this. Essentially. Need some more cowbell. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. You guys are still thinking soprano. Yeah, we may well have a soprano sax in this, actually. Like, right up the top. So, I think maybe this is going to shape up into being kind of a big band thing. Or an octet, nentet, maybe. Kind of a tune. Definitely not a quartet, quintet thing. So yeah, I like those ideas. Those are all really good ideas. For which I have made a mental note. Bob Caesar says, what I like about this is, hey, we hang and talk. Yeah, well, that's kind of part of this as well. What is that? Mama just bought a serious sewing machine to do logos and all the embroidery and stuff. Well, cool. That's awesome. That actually takes a lot of time and a lot of talent to actually sew logos onto things like polo shirts. I mean, this, I think, is probably screen printed, I would think, on some kind of laser printer, something like that. So, yeah, I don't really know anything about those kind of things. All right, let's take some questions, and then we'll wrap the show, because we're a little bit over tonight, because I spent a lot of time fiddling about with alto sax and all of that. Kyle is away. He says good night. Good night, Kyle. Take care. And thank you very much for coming. Cowbell, maybe. We'll maybe add some percussion in there as well to just kind of, that'll be kind of maybe the last thing we do once we've got all the elements in. We'll maybe go and tinker about with some percussion to add a little bit of sparkle. That can definitely happen. So yeah, I will definitely take some general Q&A at this point. And then we will wrap up. So we'll wrap up in about 10-15 minutes time. So I'll take about 3, maybe 4 questions. But if you guys don't have questions, we'll wrap up right now. So it's your choice. If you want to stick around and ask some questions and have me answer them, then we can do that. If you're not up for that, then that's fine. We'll just wrap the show right now. That is just as well. I'm cool with either. We've got 18 people watching. And I think we peaked at 22. And we held at 20 for a good long time. Dooley still says, I'd love to hear this project after written out and played by actual players. I mean, that is a compliment. Well, thank you very much. Yes, I'm sure that will, generally speaking, that is where I take my pieces of music. I kind of mock it all out in MIDI like this, and then I get real musicians in. We'll see. Maybe you'll get that. Lollipop Girl says good night and thank you for your time and talents. You're welcome. And Pop Studios is away as well. So I think you guys don't have any questions, which is fine. If you don't have any questions, that's just as good. But I mean, we could do Studio One questions. If you guys want, we can do those, or we could do no questions at all. And we can wrap the show and we can say goodnight. Up to you. Up to you. That's for sure. Ken has a question. He says, would it be easier to copy MIDI to the next track and just change harmonies or record live? When I'm actually writing stuff, I write it out in MIDI because of that. Because you can do that. Because you can flip parts. You can say, okay, this sounds pretty good, but what if I give the trumpet player to the trombone and I give the trumpet part to the trombone and I give the alto sax part to the trumpet and the tenor sax player gets the alto part. So I can do those kind of things in MIDI. And it's much harder to actually get real musicians to do that on the fly because their instruments are transposing instruments. So, like, for example, the alto sax is in E flat. I mean, B flat players don't have a problem because they are at the same transposition. But tenor sax being a major ninth above, you write it a major ninth above concert. And alto sax, you write a major sixth above the note that you intend. And so, there are different transpositions you have to take into account when you're working with real musicians. So if you write a trumpet part out and you go, actually, that works better on the alto sax, you've got to go and retranspose that for the alto sax. And then you've got to make sure that it fits into their register. And it might well be, because the trumpet has a bigger register, that there are some notes that the alto sax can't play. So you have to rework the melody. Or you have to rework that harmony part. So those kind of things are the things that you can do in MIDI. And you can try those things out in MIDI very, very easily. And especially as most sample packs these days, the instruments are designed to have the register of the actual real instrument. So there's only so high and there's only so low you can actually go on a MIDI instrument these days, because they're designed with their actual written register in mind. So you can never write too high for a certain instrument, because that's the way it's mapped out on the keyboard. And you can never, and the same with going too low. You can't do that. So you have to stick within the range of the instrument, what's actually possible on the instrument. And so then the only other thing you have to think about is kind of leaps and those kind of things. There are some leaps on a saxophone that are just uncomfortable to try and do, because you have to move a lot of fingers to make the notes. And it might well be the same on a trumpet. Like leaping a major ninth, for example, is hard to do, because you have to press the correct valve and then you have to make the note with your lips. And it's quite hard to be really accurate with intervals of major ninths and augmented fourths and those kind of things. So you have to bear those kind of things in mind. But with MIDI, those kind of things are, the registers and the ranges are taken care of. So there you go. Mike Johnson says, I have a question related to MIDI drums. Go ahead. He says, if I have one MIDI track controlling a drum VST, is there a way to automatically explode each sound onto its own track and channel, or is that a manual process? In Studio One, there is a way you can do that, and it's called explode to pitches to tracks. So if I was to go into Studio One, I'm not going to be able to show it here because I don't have that. I don't have that going on at the moment. But if this drum loops part here was MIDI, which it isn't, but if it was, and I have the kick drum, snare drum, hi-hats, crashes, toms, and all of that in one stereo file, effectively, on one track, then what you can do is you go into this context menu by right-clicking, and you should have something. You won't have it in here at the moment because this is not MIDI. You should have something that says explode pitches to tracks. Let's see if we can do this with, let's say, this guitar part. So if I was to click this guitar part, right click, and where is it? I have to find it. Can't find it. Maybe it's here, is it? Here you go. So you select the events is what you do rather than the channel. You rather than the track, you select the events, and you go to instrument parts, and then you go to explode pitches to tracks. Now with MIDI drums, that will work, and that will bring all the parts that are on different notes or different drum pads, if you're using Atom, onto individual tracks. And then in the mixer, you would find that you have all your drum tracks. And then you just need to go and label them and color them and all of that business. But yes, that's how you do it. You don't do what I just did, which is try and right-click the track and do it from that context menu because it's not available. You have to select the events. So in this case, I just selected one event and went instrument parts, explode pitches to tracks, and that's how you do it. And that's how it would work for drums as well. Okay, so I hope that helps that question get answered. Been looking for that, but I couldn't find it. Yes, and quite possibly you were clicking on what I was doing, which is looking at the track context menu instead of the event context menu. Okie dokie. What I do, guys, is live in. I still have not grasped the MIDI. Live in. Okay. Still not grasped the MIDI stuff in Studio One, so bear with. No problem, Box Studio. That's what we're here for. MIDI in Studio One doesn't work quite like MIDI in other DAWs like Cubase or logic or anything else, because of pretty much from the ground up design decisions that were made when Studio One version 1 was being developed. And they made a decision about how MIDI was going to be handled. And so they have their own proprietary way of handling MIDI. It is unique to Studio One, and it is different to any other DAW. That's not to say whether it's good or whether it's bad. It's just different, and it's just the PreSonus way of doing it, and that's just kind of like how it developed. And we are now on version 4.6. It would be pretty hard to go back and undo that, to be honest. It's a design decision that they are going to just have to carry through, for better or for worse, I think. That is what I think. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's kind of how it's going to go now that we're on 4.6.1. All right, folks, we are going to leave it there. It is 1:15 the hour. And next Sunday, it will still be 6 p.m. Central for you guys. The only person that changes is me. I will be, and if you're in Europe, so if you are in the UK or Europe, next week's show will be at midnight UK time, British summer time, or 1 a.m. in Europe because of clocks changing, because it's that time of year. You guys in the United States, you've already had it, and now it's our turn because of where we are positioned in latitude relative to you guys. So there you go. That's information you probably didn't want. But yes, for you guys in the States, it will still be 6 p.m. Central Time. So be here then on Sunday. Throughout this coming week, I will be continuing to do my extra special lives. So if you've got some questions, bring them then, and you'll see me popping up every now and then. And you'll get to see what I do in here on my normal work days. So I will see you then. Have yourselves a fantastic rest of your evening. Take great care. Stay safe. Wash your hands and stay at home. You have no reason to go out unless you are going to the grocery store. And if you're going to the grocery store, try and maintain that social distancing of at least 8 feet between you and the other people around you. So, if you find that the supermarket is absolutely rammed out, try and go when it's not. Try and find a quiet time when it's not going to be, so that you can minimize contact with other people that would enable and facilitate the spread of the coronavirus. Because we want to stop this thing in its tracks, and then we want to find a way to vaccinate against it and deal with it. It's going to take time, guys. We're going to have to hunker down, and we're going to have to work together, and we're going to have to hang out with each other together for the long haul. This may not be all over until this time next year. So we're going to have to hang in. And we're going to have to look after each other and look out for each other. Okay? And that's what I'm going to try and do here. I'm going to try and look after you guys and keep you guys sane, because when we're on lockdown for the foreseeable future, it's going to be a little bit crazy. So, we're going to have to look after each other. All right, so those of you that can stream, please do. It would keep everybody entertained if you could do that. And if you can't stream, then come to mine or Jonny's or Dave Vignola's streams. And I think my good friend Gregor, from my colleague from PreSonus, is going to be doing some streams as well. So look out for those. And if you're into beat making, he is probably the best in the business other than Catfire. I think Gregor and Catfire are probably the two best in the business right now. So go and check out what they are doing. And I will see you guys very soon. Raise the logo above the nipple line. Well, yeah, it's kind of where it is, I'm afraid, guys. That's just where they printed it. I wasn't 100% happy with it, but that's just where they put it. That's possibly, Durley, why you might not want one of these, okay? Alrighty, I'll see you guys very soon. Take care. Bye for now. Good night, everybody.